knowing who answered correctly first and allowing people to get those door prizes. As well, we will have a section in the 11 o'clock hour where we will go into breakout rooms. You actually will be able to choose the breakout room that you want to go to. We will drop that informational in the chat for you to be able to do that if you've never done that on your own. But we also will be here, myself and Whitney, to move you. If you can't figure it out, don't panic. Just let us know where you want to go, and we will send you to those rooms so you can get that great information. Other than that, if you have any needs, you can chat to everyone or chat to us directly. Serena Williams and Whit McWilliams are your technical support for today. And so we are happy to be here and help CCNC have a wonderful annual co-op conference.
All right, and I will turn it over to start our meeting to Joe Mecca with Coastal Credit Union, who is our title sponsor today.
Thanks, Emily. So good morning and welcome to the 2021 Cooperative Council of North Carolina Cooperative Conference and Annual Meeting. Happy to be here today, both as a Cooperative Council board member and as a representative of our presenting sponsor, Coastal Credit Union. Speaking on behalf of Coastal, we're honored to be able to help make today's events possible. For those of you who aren't already familiar with us, Coastal Credit Union is a financial cooperative serving the 16-county market of Central North Carolina. And we were originally chartered in 1967 by employees of IBM who had moved to the area to help build IBM's presence in what was starting to become Research Triangle Park. They knew that their fellow employees would be well served by having a credit union and worked to get one started. So you have to start somewhere, and we actually have our roots in the cafeteria broom closet at IBM. But now 54 years later, we've actually come quite a long way. Coastal has grown to 23 branches. We serve more than 1,800 different organizations. And now we have more than 280,000 members that we provide with a full range of financial services, including loans and deposits, wealth management, even real estate services. In the coming month, I'm expecting to be able to announce that we've reached the $4 billion in assets milestone, which is kind of a rarity among credit unions. So it's a big deal for us. And getting big hasn't meant losing sight of why we got started in the first place. So our mission today is helping members bank better to live better. And that means recognizing that the services that we provide touch every aspect of their life and making their financial well-being a core part of everything that we do. No matter where they are in their financial journey, we're committed to helping them navigate their current stage and formulate a plan to successfully get to that next step. But enough about us. Today is about you, about all of us, and about our common bond as cooperatives. We have a great program in store today, so I hope you're looking forward to the sessions and the speakers that we have planned. I'm especially excited that one of the people I admire most, Maurice Smith, is here to talk about the newest cooperative principle. So I'll be back a bit later, but right now I'd like to welcome Board Chair Michael Spink to introduce our first speakers.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, and appreciate Coastal's support of the council and cooperatives in general. It's great to have collaborators such as this. I'm honored today. I was thinking yesterday, as a matter of fact, was 17 years that I've known Maurice Smith. The local government federal credit union was the first cooperative that I worked with. And here I am 17 years later. When I came in the door at local government, it was obvious I was a very different kind of person than Maurice. One, maybe very obvious. Two, is I'm a Yankee. I came in, I was fast talking. I had lots of great ideas, a lot of things going on, and they hired me anyway. Maurice has always embraced cognitive diversity. He's looked at it as something that's critical to be able to move an organization forward and to maintain sustainability in the marketplace. And I believe, and I know actually factually, that he sees this cognitive diversity only possible through the bringing together of everyone, and to give everybody a seat at the table, and to bring that true democracy to the organization and to communities. And he supports that in a big, big way. So I am not surprised when Maurice stood up with the 8th Cooperative Principle, which started with an op-ed that he wrote for consideration among his peers, and people latched onto it, started talking to him about it more. So he established this, and I'm very happy to say that the council at our February 11th board meeting adopted the 8th principle as part of a resolution to bring that diversity here. It's something I believe is deep in the cooperative soul and spirit, but I also believe it's time that we pay a little more attention or a little more deliberate about it. So let me introduce Maurice Smith, CEO of Civic Federal Credit Union and Local Government Federal Credit Union. Essentially, if you know Maurice at all, he's giving us the business case actually on why not only is this just a good thing to do and the right thing to do, but that it just makes good business sense. So here we go. Maurice, thank you.
I am Maurice Smith. I am the CEO of Local Government Federal Credit Union and Civic Federal Credit Union. We are two cooperatives who serve the local government community in North Carolina. Essentially, our members are essential workers. These are the folks who take care of our local governments, our communities, our neighborhoods, each and every day. It includes elected officials, appointed officials. It includes the fellow who picks up my garbage on Thursdays. These are the public officials, the folks who make sure our society works as well as it does. So I am absolutely delighted to be here for the CCNC, the Cooperative Council of North Carolina annual meeting. I really like being around co-op people. There's just something special about individuals who have this deep-seated connection to the community and to our membership. We're focused on the philosophy or how to help our members live better lives. But we're also members of CCNC. And you may not know this, but you have a great leader in Emily Nail. Now, to be a leader under any circumstances requires someone to have vision, tenacity, a little bit of grit. They have to understand the needs of the membership and advocate for an environment that's going to allow us to be successful. Now, under normal circumstances, a meeting like this would be held in person. But here we are. It's virtual. We have a pandemic underway. So ordinarily, we would be shaking hands, giving hugs, speaking face to face, maybe even showing grandkids pictures on our phones. But just because we are socially distant doesn't mean that we are philosophically distant from one another. But we as co-ops, we have a special role in society. Our job, as it is to take care of our membership, but there's a larger perspective that we have to keep in mind as well. We have a role to society to help our neighbors and fellow citizens and members of the community live better lives. So I am absolutely delighted to be here with you today to talk about a few topics that you might find of interest. I have been assigned to have a conversation with you today about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, the social uneasiness that has occurred in our society for the last year or so, it's been going on for some time, but it's really sort of bubbled up to the forefront in the year 2020, has created an opportunity for honest conversation and dialogues among many individuals. I believe that we as co-ops have a special voice in the matter. There's a perspective that we share that I believe is helpful in moving this conversation along. So I'm happy to come and share with you our perspective from a co-op, point of view about DEI and give you a few pointers and a few things to think about in the meantime. Now, I want to talk to you about DEI from 2 points of view. First, there is the business case for DEI. And then secondly, I want to talk to you about the philosophy of credit unions and how that advances the conversation for DEI. So first, let's talk about the business case. You've often heard people say that organizations that embrace DEI into their corporate cultures have more profit, they're better able to serve their stakeholders, they're more successful. There's a lot of data and statistics to support these notions. I do not disagree whatsoever. But today, I don't have any data for you. I don't have any facts or information I could bring to you to support this supposition. I believe there is a business case for diversity, equity, and inclusion that should feel authentic to us as credit unions and as cooperatives as well. So I'd like to start to share with you our perspective on the business case for DEI, how we've employed that in our credit unions, and how I think it offers an opportunity for strategic success for all cooperatives. So let's start with the basic notion of the idea of issue spotting is what we call it. Now, you might find this hard to believe, but I have made a few mistakes in my career. I know it's shocking, right? Well, perhaps not. So this is my 41st year in credit unions. I absolutely love what I do. I consider myself a cooperative nerd. I love everything about this business, this sector, this industry, and all that we do. But occasionally, we have made mistakes. And so every mistake that we have ever made as a financial institution, as a credit union, as a cooperative, comes down to one point of view, or one, frame of time when this occurs. Maybe the mistake is just bad execution. Maybe it was the wrong strategy in the beginning. Maybe we picked the wrong market or target market that we should focus on. Usually the mistake came about during the issue spotting stage. Here's what I mean by that. Usually when we come up with a great idea, we're sitting around in the conference room, we're thinking about a service or a product or a direction or a strategy that we should employ to improve the services of our credit union for the membership. That's when the issue spotting era occurs. We realize after some mishap, when we were sitting around thinking about how to do this, we didn't have diversity of thought. We didn't have individuals in the room who had some history, some perspective, who had ideas, who had experience about what it is that we were seeking to engage in. That's when the mistake began. And everything that occurred after that was a mishap. So the antidote for an issue spotting problem is diversity. As we are pondering what new products, what new services, and what new endeavors we should embark upon, diversity gives us the additional information we need to avoid mistakes in the future. But diversity isn't just about demographics. It's about having individuals who represent a wide variety of perspectives of ideas. Listen, I've confessed to you we've made mistakes in the past. We're prone to making mistakes in the future. We're not without our good intentions. But the way we avoid having these miscues in the future is ensuring those colleagues among us, stakeholders, and members of our co-op, they have a voice in how we operate, how we serve the membership, and how we make sure that we do things in a manner that's going to be pleasing to our communities. But that's the issue spotting justification for DEI, because it helps us make better decisions. But there's another justification in terms of a business case for DEI as well for co-ops. So there's this notion, if you will, we think about called corporate actualization. Let me explain to you what that means and how we think it helps us to be more successful as a co-op and as a credit union. So Dr. Abraham Maslow in 1943 wrote a paper called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. And if you think about the depiction, the illustration of Maslow's hierarchy, it's actually shaped like a triangle. And the notion is that every individual wants to reach self-actualization. That is, I want to be the very best I can be. And if we think about it from a career standpoint, I want to be the best CEO I can be. Or I may want to be the best teller I can be. But whatever your occupation or whatever your endeavor is, I want to be the best. But Dr. Maslow says you don't get to self-actualization until you've passed several of the layers that work your way up to the top of the pyramid. That includes you have to be you feel physical needs have been taken care of. You have to feel like that you are safe in the environment that you are in. You think about, I want to have a sense of self-belonging, and my self-esteem needs to be intact. And there's a number of other elements in that equation. But when you have completed the process, you have reached self-actualization. The way we think about it here at the credit union is that we want to get to corporate actualization. But we do not arrive at corporate actualization until every individual in the organization has reached self-actualization. The solution for that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because you see, the opposite of diversity is similarity. The opposite of equity is inequity. The opposite of inclusion is exclusion. And the way we give everybody an opportunity to rise to be their very best they can be is through DEI. And if every person in this organization have reached self-actualization, we've arrived at corporate actualization. I'm going to talk a few minutes about the philosophy of cooperatives and how DEI really should be part of our DNA. Just the philosophy of cooperatives, we should be a petri dish for DEI. The 7 cooperative principles sort of lay out how we think about ourselves and our approach to the membership and our responsibilities. But we're making an argument that there should be an 8th cooperative principle. And the reason why we say so is because the 7 principles have to be read for inference and between the lines to get to the idea that DEI is something important to cooperative. But the way we think about this is, if we deconstruct the 7 cooperative principles and how they came about, we realize that, wait a minute, we want to be unambiguous about this value of DEI. So we are suggesting to the cooperative community, let's add an 8th principle. The idea here is that we want a principle that represents the sensitivities that we have today. You see, the principles were written back in 1844, 76 years before women would gain the right to vote through the suffrage movement. About 60 years or so before, or 20 years or so, excuse me, before we would have, the emancipation of enslaved people in the United States. We think that people who wrote these principles in 1844 don't think about DEI the way we think about them today. So as a result, we think an 8th principle would make it clear to all of society that cooperatives see themselves in a different light, and our responsibilities to all our members is different. I mentioned to you before, I like being around cooperative people. We seem to have this Pollyannish view that we think we can change the world. That pleases me greatly, to be among individuals like you who believe that our purpose is larger than life, to take care of our membership and our community. I thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today, and I appreciate the moment here to share with you a little bit about DEI and the context in which it fits in with credit unions and cooperatives. So I'm looking forward to continuing this dialogue with you. I would invite you to go to DEItalks.com, a website that we have assembled to sort of further this conversation about an 8th cooperative principle. The AACUC, African American Credit Union Coalition, and the Credit Union National Association, CUNA, have adopted this notion of an 8th principle. Some of you have heard the story. You're putting your names on the dotted line as well. Thank you for your support. Thank you for inviting me here again. I wish the CCNC a great annual meeting, and I'm looking forward to our paths crossing again soon. Thank you.
Emily, you're on mute.
Emily, we can't hear you.
How about now?
Very
Okay,
good.
sorry. Thank you to Maurice for sharing that thought process about DEI. It's definitely been an incredibly hot topic over the last couple of years, and something that the Cooperative Council also has a passion for. We are headed to our next speaker, who is Nell Hotchkiss, and she is the Chief Operating Officer of the North Carolina Association of Electric Cooperatives. Her role has been in the cooperative industry for over 20 years, and she is responsible for overseeing the association's statewide activities, including Carolina Country Magazine, government affairs, member services, communications, and job training. She is one of our past board members and has been a huge advocate for the Cooperative Council of North Carolina. She's going to share about putting DEI into practice in her electric cooperatives and how that can be done at a ground level. So with that, I welcome Nell.
Hi, I'm Nell Hotchkiss with North Carolina's Electric Cooperatives, and I was asked to speak today about diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. While our cooperative leaders have had discussions about issues surrounding DEI, after preparing for my remarks today, I believe I have more work to do as a leader to promote DEI practices and create a more inclusive culture in my department and at my cooperative. So let's talk about what we mean by DEI. Diversity, in our view, includes not only things that we can visibly see, like race, gender, ethnicity, mobility, or age, but also things that we cannot surmise upon looking at an individual. But that awareness took time and understanding on our part. Today, after some education, we have a better appreciation of diversity in all its forms. We strive to value differences we may not be able to see. Those attributes can include religion, parenthood, sexual orientation, economic or veteran status. The point is, the value of diversity is bringing a variety of experience and perspectives to the workplace, which better represents our membership. As cooperatives, our mission is to provide the best product and value to our membership at a competitive or lower cost. If cooperatives embrace DEI and actively practice its principles, we will offer our members a better and more innovative product or service experience that truly meets their needs. Cooperatives, through our consumer-centric business model, are well positioned to embrace this opportunity. To truly move DEI principles forward, our organizations must state their intent and values. Nationally, electric cooperatives have adopted a DEI resolution to voice our commitment and begin more intentional actions. Next steps include a specific plan, like business plans, to incorporate our intent into our work practices. Diversity must be visible, and it includes both our leadership and our boardroom. And the workforce must reflect our membership. Our National Board President, Curtis Wynn, CEO of Roanoke Electric here in North Carolina, has done an exceptional job bringing DEI principles and their benefits into our national conversation. As Curtis says, DEI is good for business. The discussion at North Carolina's electric cooperatives started many years ago, and we began, where many do, expanding our recruiting practices to create a more diverse candidate pool for hiring. That has been successful to date in all positions around the organization, including executive leadership. We cannot just stop at initial D and check the box. Equity is essential to sustaining DEI practices over time and retaining a more diverse workforce. DEI means very little without looking for roadblocks in equity. To integrate equity into our processes requires an understanding of where someone is coming from, their life's experiences, and what has shaped their views and opinions. Hosting events where employees have the opportunity to get to know one another can be helpful. Allowing employees to seek common ground and those experiences which can build a more collaborative and positive work environment. Our cooperative hosts such events and mixes staff at tables, for example, who normally don't work together or see each other on a regular basis. We also provide opportunities for staff to volunteer for local charities and nonprofits, which benefit our community. At times, our employees may be exposed to challenges others may face, creating empathy, which is another key component to equity. Practical business application to integrate equity into our practices are important. For example, have you experienced where an employee that has been in a cooperative the longest, or is the boss's good friend and looks like him, outside of work, is automatically promoted? My guess is the answer is yes. Many of us have seen this in the past, but that's where it should remain, in the past. Team members working on a special product should and be comprised of a diverse employee group with different skills and sets and perspectives to bring the best, most innovative work towards meeting deadlines and on budget to exceed member needs. Establishing equity and expectations, promotions based on merit and fair compensation, which are understood and accepted, is hard and at first can create tension, but is worth the work. Leaders should be counseled and equipped to work through growing pains with positivity, patience, and persistence. Those actions of commitment will foster an inclusive work environment, continuing to enhance collaboration and spur true innovation. We must all become more comfortable working with people unlike ourselves, and senior staff must lead by example. Over time, with practice, we will be less uncomfortable and create better experiences for employees and improve retention for the workforce, which decreases costly churn. Lastly, we must create a culture of inclusion. This will take time and cannot happen without the D and the E. Our principles of open and voluntary membership and cooperation among cooperatives applies to our workforce. All must be provided opportunity within their workspace to be heard and respected for what they bring to the table. It's not to say that every idea we will have will be implemented, but we must participate and be treated fairly in a collaborative process used to come to those decisions and their implementation. A boss may be the ultimate decision maker, but many well-informed opinions will make for a better vetting process and outcome to benefit our members. So together, let's all make a personal commitment to increase awareness, value differences, promote respect, and improve our personal and professional communications. Additionally, let's consider that 8th principle discussed by Maurice Smith to be the best cooperative employee we can be, and in turn offer the best possible service to our members.
Thank you to Nell, and I wanted to bring Michael Spink on to just share about the DEI initiative and commitment that the council has made this year.
All right, thank you, Emily. And so good to hear from those two very influential cooperative leaders. I think they're very, very sound perspectives that they offered, and I love the variance of how it expands so much. But I think it really helps us all to reflect a bit more on ourselves and our organizations, and taking that honest look at who we are, opening up those conversations that we otherwise wouldn't have. Sometimes they're a little difficult, but I have found at the end of each one of those conversations, everyone's feeling a little bit better about who they are and how they're approaching things. So it's just really been fantastic. I jumped the gun a little bit. I was so excited. I mentioned that we adopted the principle before we heard from these speakers, but we did adopt it on the 11th of February. And Maurice mentioned DEItalks.com. I would suggest you go check it out to hear a little bit more on this matter. But there was a line on there that really encapsulated for me, and it was spoken to the both, but it's cooperatives believe we are stronger when a proactive effort is put forth to engage everyone in governance, management, and representation. And that just really speaks to what we've been about for a long, long time. So it's really grabbing that, encapsulating it, and living it at a deeper level, as was shared by Maurice and by Nell as well, to move us all forward together with this common bond that we hold. So very cool. I'm very happy we've adopted that, and we will continue to work. I hope you all will look at that for your organizations and for yourselves, and hopefully we'll all advance everything forward for cooperatives and the communities that we serve. So on that, I think I'll pass it back to you, Emily, and we'll get to some interesting stories I believe are coming up. So thank you, everyone.
We do have stories coming up next. However, first, draw your attention to your chat box. We do have a few different door prizes that will be coming out to our winners today. And I want to just test your trivia about cooperatives on a national level and see how much you've really paid attention to other industries, because sometimes we get so focused in our tunnel of industry that we don't look outside where we're working or who we're working with to see what others are doing. So with that, all of my electric people, you might know the answer, but how many Americans are served by electric cooperatives? So go ahead and get that chat box open and tell me how many Americans are served by electric cooperatives. And please don't look these answers up and cheat, but let me see who we've got on this that can give us a guess. Wow, Curtis, you are on spot. So Curtis Wynn, thank you. 42 million Americans are served by electric cooperatives. That's a lot of miles. Curtis, you answered correctly. Now let me put you on the spot with an additional question. Do you know how many miles of lines that equates to by chance?
Not without looking it up, Emily.
All right, I just figured you were on top of that. I don't know it off the top of my head either, but I wanted to see if you did. I know that it is millions and billions of miles of lines that connect those 42 million Americans with electric service. So those electric co-ops are the ones that are there. When you flip that switch, you expect those lights on. So moving on, Curtis, you are our first winner. For every $1,000 spent at your local food cooperative, how much of that goes back into the local economy? This is a trick question, but take a stab at it. And this is a statistic that is from 2019, so it's a little dated, unfortunately. But for every $1,000 spent at a food cooperative, how much goes back into the local economy? Okay, we've got a few guesses. I don't see a right answer yet. We're getting closer. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. And see if I need a few more guesses here. We got to get closer. How much of $1,000 spent goes back into the local community at your food cooperative? All right, getting closer. All right, I'm going to close this out. Nell, you were the closest at 1,500. The correct answer is $1,604. Again, a 2019 statistic. However, food cooperatives buy more organic local produce and recycle more plastic than conventional grocery stores on average. And $1,604 goes back into the local economy from every $1,000 spent at your food cooperative. So way to go. Nell, thank you for your guess there. You were at 1,500, so closest without going over. I think that's what they say. So Nell, thank you on that one. I've got two more on this round that we're gonna do before headed into our stories. The next one is, how many American dairy farmers participate in cooperatively marketing their dairy products? So how many American dairy farmers participate in cooperatively marketing their dairy products? Take a stab at that. It's an exact number, not an exact number, but it's a number, not a percentage. But if we were going to do a percentage, I guess I could figure that out as well, Michael. This is how many American dairy farmers participate in cooperatively marketing their dairy products. Okay, we're getting closer, I think. Let me know if I missed it, Whitney. It's pretty amazing to think about, and loving all the answers coming in.
No one just yet, Emily.
Okay, not yet. I'll give it another couple seconds here. All right, anything? What's our closest without going over?
Our closest without going over would be Melissa with 1.75 in.
Okay, Melissa, you are closest without going over, and the correct answer is 2 million American dairy farmers participate in cooperatively marketing their products. So thank you, Melissa. You will get a prize pack on that one. And those folks that win, I will give you my email address. Actually, I have Curtis and Nell's address. Melissa, I'll need to get your address at the end here. All right, so last question of this round. Worker-owned cooperatives let the workers run the organization. How many people around the world work in a worker-owned cooperative? So this is worldwide number. Again, it's a 2019 statistic, but very good number for this one. Worldwide. So get those guesses in. We've got some more prize packs for you. Gotta love the Co-op Council prize packs. And just a reminder for those of you who have joined us late, if you didn't hear my recording at the beginning, if you were one of the first 60 registered and you got your co-op box, or if you put a P.O. box, please get this from the post office box because it is perishable. So those of you that got those, thank you to Central Electric and the North Carolina Electric Cooperatives for putting those together for us. That was your little swag box, and for Weaver Street Market and for putting all of that order together for us. Do we have a winner on this one?
No, folks are way over.
Way over. Okay, so bring it down. Unfortunately. How we doing? Oh, I think, did Emma, wait. Nope, sorry. I'm mixing my numbers up.
Bill with the 1. We're getting close, folks. Keep going.
All right, do we have a closest without going over? Oh, I think Edward Hinson was our closest without going over, maybe. Am I looking at the, oh, Edward, you were just 95 million over.
And Richard is 50 over, so we could give it to either. Great job, guys.
All right, so the correct answer on this one is 100 million. And let's see, did we have a closest without going over, or was Richard the closest with 150 million? Janet had 500,000. Let's see, scrolling. All right, I'll have you look at that, Whitney, and get back to me. So in our worker-owned cooperatives, there are 100 million worker-owned workers. So those are the employees of the cooperative that are actually owners of the cooperative, making that organization work. So let's see, we will move on to our cooperative stories. I'm so excited to have some special storytellers here with us today. And we're moving into hearing about some different ideas around cooperatives. So we want to hear, we're hearing 3 different ideas today. We will hear from Scott Gates, which he will share with us the cooperative storytelling. He is with Carolina Country Magazine. We'll hear from Rose Gomez, and she is one of the education and marketing supports from Cabot Cooperative. And we will hear from Bernie Mann from Our State Magazine. All 3 are going to share very different stories, different ideas, and they're going to share information about their organizations and how they operate to make the cooperative world work. So with that, I'm going to invite Scott Gates onto the screen for about 7 to 10 minutes to share with us from Carolina Country. Scott.
Okay, great. Morning, everybody. And thanks for the invitation to speak today, Emily. You always put together an excellent program, and I'm happy to be a part of these sessions here today. I'm starting a timer, so I'm going to try to hit 7 to 10 minutes, but there's a lot of information I want to convey, so bear with me. All right, so as Emily said, I'm Scott. I'm the editor of Carolina Country Magazine, which is the monthly publication of North Carolina's electric cooperatives. And this morning, I'm going to spend 7 to 10 minutes talking about the magazine, how it works as a communications platform, and how co-ops are using it to engage members. So next slide, please. Get right into it. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Carolina Country is produced on behalf of the state's electric co-ops by the North Carolina Association of Electric Cooperatives, which is based in Raleigh. And our subscribers are members of electric co-ops who receive the magazine at no cost to them as a benefit of membership. Content is distributed through our print publication, via our website, and through social channels, all of which I will touch on today. Next slide, please. So we've been doing this for a while, not me specifically, but a long storied list of editors, writers, and designers have been doing this for a while. Our first issue came out in June 1946, and back then we were called Carolina Farmer, and the first cover featured a peach orchard in Montgomery County. And in August 1969, we debuted the new name, and if you do the math, that makes Carolina Country more than 50 years old, and the publication as a whole rings in at 75 years. So we're going strong. Next slide, please. Today, we reach more than 700,000 homes and businesses with subscribers in all 100 North Carolina counties. And we're distributed to members of all 26 electric co-ops, plus some members of a Georgia-based co-op that serves North Carolina residents. And that puts our total readership at around 2.1 million. Next slide, please. So with each issue that goes out, our aim is to stay true to our mission to foster and enhance connections between members and their electric co-ops through platforms, not just print, that's print digital, that entertain, educate, and engage. And I think it's safe to say that these are things we all want to do when we communicate with members. In fact, this mission, or some form of it, is shared across a nationwide network of magazines, just like Carolina Country. Next slide. There are 32 statewide magazines, actually, similar to Carolina Country, and those cover 42 states served by electric co-ops. And in the national network, by the way, Carolina Country is second largest behind Texas. They have more than 1 million actual subscribers because it's Texas. So they actually have the most electric co-ops of any state. Next slide. So combined statewide magazines reach 12 million subscribers. That's an estimated 29 million total readers. And together, we're the third largest circulating consumer publication in the country. If you're curious, we're behind 2 AARP publications, if you get them, and Costco Connection magazine, for the record. So the subscriber model is similar to those because those magazines go out to members as a benefit. That's why they have such far reach. All right, next slide. Why does it work? So given the widespread use of this model and how long we've all been doing it, this is the big question. Why does it work? And we can talk about that. Next slide. First off, it's cost effective. Thanks to economies of scale and periodical postal rate, co-ops are able to get information to their members in a timely manner without breaking the bank. There's a cost per subscriber that each co-op pays, but we do work hard to keep that low. Next slide. In fact, everything that goes into each printed magazine costs the co-ops less than a first-class stamp per subscriber. So this is pretty impressive. That includes editorial, the work I do and our staff does. It includes production, printing, even postage. All is covered for about 50 cents per subscriber per magazine. Next slide. The second reason it works is it's local. Even though the bulk of content is produced by our team in Raleigh, our goal is for readers to connect and engage with their local electric co-op. Next slide. So to do this, we produce one core statewide version each month, but 23 electric co-ops customize it by inserting their own local newsletters. That's a lot of coordination, but after so many years, we've got it down to a science. We also include individual co-op logos on the cover and process individual requests each month, which includes things like cover wraps to promote special programs or annual meetings. Some co-ops use cover wraps to include mail-in ballots even. Annual reports are included with the magazine, and some use it for new member packets. That's helpful too, because it's kind of like, you move into a new house, you get this magazine, and there's a new member pack saying, welcome to your co-op. Here's why you get this magazine. That works well. Next slide. So a 2019 reader survey helped prove that this localization is working. Actually, 100% of those surveyed knew that the magazine was provided by their co-op. I kind of wish that was 99 because 100 sounds totally made up, but that's, you can't argue with that. And 96 agreed that the magazine makes them appreciate their electric co-op more. Next slide. So the last reason why it works may be the most important. It's engaging, or at least we work hard to try to make it engaging. And this has been the model all along. Let's be honest. If your electric company sends you a newsletter in the mail or stuffed in a bill, how likely are you to read it? Many of you might, because you're all good people, but statistically, that means of communication is not very engaging. Next slide. So we're doing what the magazine has been working towards since the start. We're offering readers content that's interesting. The vast majority love the recipes, by the way. That's in the back of the book. Then we're using that to get them engaged with their local co-op news. And this is going on the first cover of Carolina Country back in 1969. There's a feature story in there on all electric mobile homes, but they chose to draw the reader in by focusing on one family, the Forey family, who were members of South River EMC, and they talked about how they enjoyed their time in a mobile home. So they put a face to it. Next slide. So that aspect of the magazine has not changed. Our April issue is a good example, which will be, I'm checking my timer. Oh, 7 minutes. Which will be hitting mailboxes later this week. So we have some important basic information in there about nuclear power, which makes up a large portion of North Carolina Co-op's generation mix. So this is a picture of Catawba Nuclear Station. I'm not following the slides, but give me a thumbs up if you see a nuclear plant. Great. Okay, so we own a large a share of that nuclear plant. Do we feature that on the cover? No, although I'm a sucker for plant and power line photos. We're actually using our cover for, next slide, this young lady. We're still talking about nuclear, and you can see we refer to it there on a teaser headline, but we lead with results from a contest of reader pet photos. And this happens to be Bella on her first birthday, submitted by a member of Albemarle EMC. By the way, we received more than 1,000 entries for this photo contest. And again, engaged readership. And what do you think would get more folks to open that magazine? A picture of a nuclear plant or Bella? I think we know the answer. Next slide. So our content mix reflects this. We typically land around here. I've been tracking it for years, and this is always where we end up. It seems to be our sweet spot. 1/3 is dedicated to industry and co-op news. A little more than that, actually, because that 9% home improvement is largely energy efficiency tips. The rest is human interest stories like Bella and stories about people and businesses in co-op territory. We also do travel content, and food is popular. That's recipes and other features related to food, which we all love in North Carolina. Next slide. So the content drives reader engagement, and we have a few more stats showing this from that 2019 survey. It's impressive. 40 minutes is the average time spent with the magazine. A lot of our readers are in rural areas and they don't have subscriptions to other magazines per se. So this is kind of could be considered a luxury, this kind of lifestyle publication. So they do keep it around. 88% think the magazine is a must read, and 86% have read the last 3 out of 4 issues. Next slide. That's reinforced with research done by TSC Services for the 2020 Touchstone Energy National Survey on the cooperative difference. They do that every year. And that shows, you see at the top, statewide magazines have the highest recall rate for co-op communications, 38%, and we're above print newsletters and email from the co-op, which are both 28%. But it was nice to see that those are also high. You can see bill stuffers, they're about 16%, so they're not as effective. And then one last piece of data on this next slide. It may be surprising to some of you, but if you look at the age breakdown of those recalling co-op messaging, you see that print magazines and newsletters perform well with all age groups, even those down in the 18 to 24-year-olds. They're actually neck and neck with email. So that's something that we've put a lot of effort into confirming, that younger readers do actually like print, and especially we found in rural areas that is the case. So digital is an important component, but don't knock print. All right, speaking of digital, on this next slide, if you go back to our mission, I didn't say print specifically, it's the content that members engage with, so that's what we're focused on. And some do prefer digital. We launched our first website back in '96, but we've come a long way since then. And at the time, that was updated monthly with recipes and features, but there wasn't really much strategy other than we need a website. So next slide. Today, we've stepped back and assessed our digital strategy, and we've started replicating that local model of the print publication online. So I'm going to skip some stuff here, but today when a user visits the website, we can determine where they're located with their IP address, brand the website for the applicable local co-op. That includes a logo, and then we can also pull in local stories that link back to the co-op website. So we've been doing that for a few years, and we have found it to be effective, and it's increased engagement with co-ops digitally. So that's our goal there. We also are on social media, which is a huge way that electric co-ops are engaging with members, but that's a whole different conversation for another co-op meeting. Last slide here, I'm going to wrap up, but I want to leave with a few additional takeaways. First, whatever the platform, populate it with timely, engaging content. Draw input and content ideas from others around your organization and network. We pull from employees of the state association as well as from our member co-ops, and certainly include the industry and co-op news that's important to members as owners, but also be aware that it may not always make for the most engaging lead. Second here, tell member stories. We're all swimming in member stories, and they're an amazing, interesting resource. People love reading about others like themselves, and that's what member stories can provide. And lastly, stay true to your mission, be genuine, find your voice and stick to that. Ours happens to be dogs wearing bandanas, but we all have a sweet spot that we can operate in. So find that and you can't go wrong. So I'll end it there, but thank you all for listening today. And I'll be a part of the breakout session after if you have any questions, and then please look me up if you want to chat more about this. Emily can give you my contact information.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. That is great. I do love that picture of Bella, and I did get that issue and I did read it and look up what Bella was up to. So great. I did.
You got it already?
I believe so.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I believe that. It's definitely one of those magazines that I read too. So it's up there in the publication that I open. So so excited to hear about that and how you communicate your stories out to your members and share that different content, especially by location, which makes it very interesting to see the different publications. If you ever travel the state, you can see different information on the inside of that publication, depending on the location that you're at. So I think that's a very interesting logistical change that you make happen. So Scott shared a lot about Carolina Country and how they share their stories. And they really do share a lot about their cooperative stories and their cooperative members, which makes it very easy read for the members that are receiving those magazines. We are going to now share another type of story coming from Cabot Creamery Cooperative. Cabot is one of the dairy marketing cooperatives that is owned by dairy farmers. And so we've got Rose that's going to share about how they pivoted to serve their members and to serve their product needs out during the pandemic, which is a very interesting story. So I'll turn that over to Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose Gomez. I work for Cabot Creamery as member marketing integrator, which means that I focus specifically on working with our member farmers and collaborating with our marketing department on various programs and initiatives. To give you some background on who we are a cooperative owned by 800 dairy farm families. Our farms are located in New England and New York, and they're really the heart behind everything that we do. We make award-winning dairy products, probably most known for Cabot cheese. Some of the changes that we faced due to COVID were excess food service product due to restaurants closing down or minimizing their business, no in-person sampling events for our marketing department, and our retail stores that Cabot normally operated, which primarily saw tourist traffic, were closed down as a precaution to keep our employees safe. So how we responded was we decided to donate the food service product that we had to food banks and dairy drive-thrus. Also, by mailing product directly to frontline workers and by redeploying the employees who would normally work in those retail stores to work instead in our plants, on the lines, and in care teams that we set up to screen employees as they came in to make sure that no one was coming in sick. For these food service donations, as I mentioned previously, with restaurants closing down or minimizing their business, we ended up with a lot of excess, large, bulk-sized yogurts, cottage cheese, sour cream that just didn't make sense to be sold in a retail setting. So we decided to set up a donation page on our website where food banks and food drives could request donations of these bulk-sized dairy products. We ended up donating 315,000 pounds of product to food banks, food pantries, and food drives. This also included Second Harvest of North Carolina, where they received 3,600 pounds of product. We also worked with the Federation of Southern Co-ops to help find PPE, shipping boxes, and we also donated product to their Farm to Family Grants program. We began to shift our thinking of how our marketing department could support communities. Rather than sampling at events, which were no longer an option, we wanted to send cheese directly to people to try. And we wanted it to really have meaning. So we decided to focus specifically on frontline healthcare workers. Last spring, we set up a page on our website where we said that nursing staff, medical staff of any kind could request a donation of cheese to share with their teams. We received 3,247 submissions from that site. Of those submissions, there were over 1,000 hospitals with multiple locations and departments, including 109 shipments to North Carolina hospitals specifically. So what we sent to the hospitals were snack-sized cheese bars. This made it easy for them to give out to their team members to have on the go while they were working, and it made it safer for them as every bar is individually wrapped, so no one was coming in contact with the cheese unless they were planning to consume it. So in the end, we donated over 13,000 pounds of cheese and 296,728 of those individual snack bars that you can see in these photos. Of course, throughout the pandemic, we wanted to continue putting Principle 6 into action. So we came up with a couple of different ways of doing that. One way, we supported Civic FCU by sending cheese for their membership outreach and recruitment. So they all received bags of these individually wrapped snack bars that I mentioned before, and they were able to drop those off at members and members that they were looking to recruit. We also worked with the Cooperative Home Care Associates of New York and sent a shipment that included coupons for cheese and 3/4 ounce bars of cheese just to thank them for the work during COVID. Then we also decided to expand our idea of frontline support to include financial frontline workers. We worked with a number of credit union associations across New England, New York, and North Carolina to provide cheese to give to their employees who continued to work in person to serve their members throughout the pandemic. And I just want to end by saying a big thank you on behalf of all of our farm families for all that you do in your co-ops and all that you do for your communities.
Well, thank you all. It looks like Emily might be having a little bit of technical difficulties. We should be hearing from Bernie Mann next. Michael, are you able to introduce him while Emily is experiencing, it looks like her camera's back. Welcome back, Emily.
Thank you, Serena.
Absolutely.
Did I get back on here?
You are on. We can
Okay,
see
I'm so
you.
sorry. Yes, technical difficulties over here. But I did want to bring on Bernie Mann, and he is the president and publisher of Our State magazine. And I'm excited to have him on here. And one of the reasons that our programs committee was very interested in hearing from Bernie today was the opportunity that he took with his publication, Our State magazine, to move ownership to their employees through the ESOP. And so I'm excited to hear from Bernie about that process and how he did that through Our State magazine. So Bernie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Emily, and I'm glad to be here. I wanted to start by mentioning the fact that the ESOP has been around for a long time, but the number of people who have used it is still relatively small. In North Carolina, there's only 100 companies that are ESOP, and nationwide, there's only 7,000 ESOP companies. So you'd say, well, now, why is that? Well, let me tell you the bad news first. The bad news is that you really have to have the right kind of company for it to be an effective program. It really calls for companies that are somewhere in the age group that are under 50. If they're much older than 50, the program takes about 12 to 15 years to really become significant. Because remember, this is a program that is basically a wonderful, wonderful retirement program for the employees. And if they're in their 60s, they're not probably going to be staying that long to get the benefit of this program. So it's really good for companies that have their management and their top employees and their key people who are relatively in their 50s, 40s, 30s, of course, in that area. The other bad news is that it's expensive. We did this 3 years ago, and it cost over $600,000 in lawyers' fees, CPAs, a variety of people with their hand out in order to make sure that this thing goes right. It's terribly important that it is done well and done right, because you submit the documents to the Department of Labor and to the IRS. And it's just like sending in your tax return. You don't have to wait until it gets approved. It's technically approved when you send it in. But at any given time, the IRS or the Department of Labor or both can swoop in and say, okay, tell us why you did this. Tell us why the price is right for this company, and tell us how it is going so that the employees are protected. That's the key thing that the feds are always looking for, to make sure that the employees are protected. So it's the right age, it's expensive. It took us about 15 months in order to do this. It is a slow moving program that has a lot of different layers to it, so that there's no shortcut. And for me, I don't really get my money out of my business until probably 7 or 8 years. It just takes a while for the company to be able to pay me off what they have agreed to do. The thing is, it helps if you want to work. I did not want to leave my business. I was having a good time. I think I'm making a contribution. And so it was a good program because it gave me a chance to continue to be involved, to continue to work, and to also be able to see that it prospers. Let me tell you the good news. It's an incredible retirement program for your employees. It's just the most wonderful thing, because the money that they get at retirement is way more than they could ever expect to save or to hold in a 401k program or any of that. It is fantastic. The employees put no money into it, and it's very much like buying a house without any money down. And as the equity starts increasing, the value of the business to the employees start increasing. And so when they get me paid off, then the rest of the money goes to them. The other interesting thing about this is that it is tax-free. The government no longer collects, the state and federal no longer collects income tax from an ESOP company. From a buyer's standpoint or from a seller's standpoint, you have to say, is this a good deal? Is this the best way to have a succession plan? Well, if you start off by saying that the best buyer for my company would probably be an ego buyer, somebody who said, boy, I'm going to overpay, but I really want to have my name on the masthead. I didn't find any of those. But I think that the next best step is to find somebody like an ESOP who truly knows the value of the company. Nobody knows the value of this company more than the employees. I'm so fortunate to have had 46 employees, and well over half of them have been with me more than 10 years. My editor-in-chief have been with me almost since the day I bought the magazine 24 years ago. And I have so many people like that. And for me, the heartbreaking thing would be to sell it, and I give everybody $250 and a handshake, and I'm gone. And I didn't think that's the right way for me to sell my company. I wanted to have the people who had the chance to make it. They're the ones who helped it. They're the ones who moved it ahead. When we bought this company, it was 23,000 paid subscribers. Today, we have 185,000 paid subscribers. That growth has come because of them. That growth has come because of their writing and their terrific, terrific passion for the magazine. And because of the salespeople, and because of all of the people who put their effort into it. And I felt the ESOP was really the most wonderful way of rewarding these people with something that they really built. Now you'd say, well, a lot of people like to have their children in the business. Well, I have 3 children. They're wonderful, but they're pretty stupid because they live in dumb places. They live in Boston and Chicago, and they're not ready to come back to North Carolina. So I have, I check off the list. Do you let your kids have the business? No, because they're not here. So then the next step is, do you sell it to somebody who you don't like, but they're going to give you money? Well, I didn't feel that was a good answer, because if I don't like them, I don't like to inflict them on my employees. So the best option to me was to say, what if I found a way in which the employees could buy it? Now none of them have enough money to do it themselves, but under the ESOP program, they can wind up being tremendous, successful people. So again, I'm not sure if it's right for everybody. It obviously is not. But as you look at options for your succession plan, it is one of those that are worthwhile thinking about. Emily, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm glad to have been here.
Thank you so much, Bernie. We so appreciate you being here. And one of the things that our programs committee thought this was amazing to hear about is so many of our cooperation employees and development specialists look at the local economy that they're in and see that their legacy business owners and their sole owner businesses are looking for that succession plan, and they're looking for an option for what they can do to really provide for their employees. And like Bernie said, just taking a organization and selling to the top dollar might not be an option, and it might not take care of the staff as well. So really an awesome story that Our State magazine is now owned by their employees in this option for them to continue the work that they're doing in a great way. So thank you, Bernie. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to reading that magazine as well. Another one that comes to my doorstep.
Thank you.
And Bernie and Scott, we are now going to have an option for some breakout rooms to have some question and answer and some conversations. So Whitney is going to be able to share that document if you need help getting into the breakout rooms, but they're going to set those up, and you can either move yourself into those breakout rooms, or you can ask in the chat Serena or Whitney to help you move into the breakout room that you would like to go into. We will be in our breakout rooms for a couple minutes. We will be back at 11:40 for our business meeting briefly, and we will have some more prizes for our cooperative questions when we come back.
Okay. And so Emily, that 11:40 includes a 10-minute break, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the rooms will be open until 11:30, and Thomas has asked what are the topics, and Thomas, it is a free-for-all, if you will, meaning you can ask the speakers whatever you would like from their storytelling, and ESOPs is what Michael has posted in the chat. So we're opening the rooms now. There should be at the bottom of your screen breakout rooms. You can click on that. You should see the 2 rooms, Q&A with Scott, Q&A with Bernie. You can click on the number beside it and join, or you can tell us where you want us to put you and we will move you there.